Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Meredith here with a message from Your Healthy Voice, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about rising and how our challenges climbing up the mountains that we have to rise above is part of the process, not avoiding them, but climbing them. And I'm going to share with you a little story, a little chapter in the Bible, and just a little bit of message on this. So, this weekend, my husband and I were up north. Sorry, I'm trying to get to my chapter. My husband and I were up north at Sleeping Bear Dunes, which is now like the hot place in the country to go visit. It is a beautiful park. I recommend it, but it can get a little crowded because the nation wants to go there since it was on the Today Show. But it's right down the street from where we go to the lake. It's only about a half hour. So we like to go for a hike, you know, as much as we can every time we go. So we did on Saturday because it was a beautiful day. And if you go up the main dune, there's tons of people trying to climb up this dune. It's a really tough uphill climb. So you're climbing up this dune, and we decided we're going to go off to the side. There's so many of these dunes that go up and down and up and down that actually go for miles until you get out to the lake. We decided to kind of go off the beaten path and go around so we could kind of be in more of a quiet place as we hike up and over these dunes. And, we were kind of talking about life being, taking the path less traveled, and how there was all these little pricks in the sand, and how sometimes the sand, life can get a little prickly, and we got to this one dune, which I'll post a picture of later, but it was like straight up. I mean, it was like two dunes in one, straight up, almost 90 degrees. It was crazy. So, but, we're at the bottom of it, and I'm like, okay, that's a little scary, but I can't really get to the other side of it. I can't rise above it unless I climb it. So I just climbed it. And, I had to stop a few times to breathe and physically lean on my husband. But obviously, eventually, I made it to the top. And, we could see a little bit of the lake. And we just had this totally different perspective that we couldn't get from staring at this huge dune. So we had to climb up and over it. And that's really the metaphor that I want to use for today's message. That we can't really just stare at the mountain in front of us. I mean, we can sit here and talk about our problems forever, but we really kind of have to face them and walk up and over the hill. Not, around it, or like, oh, let's pretend it's not there. Because eventually we're going to have to climb it to get to the other side of where we want to be. So I want to share with you kind of a different story, but it kind of talks about, rising and really praising God in your difficulties. And it's actually in Luke chapter 17, and it's when Jesus heals 10 men with leprosy. So basically, he's walking through Samaria. He's walking to Jerusalem and passes through Samaria and Galilee. And going to a village, he runs into these 10 men, and they're saying, Jesus, have pity on us, have pity on us. And he said, okay, well, go to the priest, and you'll be healed. And so on their way, they were healed. But one of them, when he saw he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Sorry. And Jesus basically asked him, why aren't all 10 of them here? Why aren't 10 of you here? Why is there only one of you here? And it's just this one guy that was grateful enough to go back and, thank God for healing him. And, so in the last verse of this chapter, he says, Then Jesus said to him, rise and go, your faith has made you well. And I think sometimes we think, these situations in our life, they feel like such huge mountains, whether it's, like my arm. I mean, I don't have my thing on, but, between the elbow and the wrist, it can be a challenge. It feels like I'm going up one dune and another dune, and it can be, dealing with addictions in your family. It can be a million things. But sometimes we think, that we have to psych ourselves out of them, but it's just we're staring at it. It's like, I'm not going to deal with this yet. But the truth is, when we have faith, we have to have faith to climb it, but then we have to move forward and act. You know, it's like in James it says faith without act. What we need the action. We need to be acting in our faith, not just having faith like, oh, my ship's going to come in. So, you know, we have to have faith. We have to do faith over fear. Walk through it even though we have fear. So trusting God that he's going to be with us in the climb. We have to believe it, and we rise up the mountain, we rise up the dune by taking the steps to climb it. We know it's going to be difficult, but we know with God all things are possible. So, but how many times, you know, do we let that mountain in front of us, you know, defeat us in our minds? When in reality, it's by walking those difficult paths that we learn to rise above and get God's perspective. And it's always so much better than what we had planned or thought. So, and in this, I really think it relates to the society we live in that's so much obsessed with social media fame and quick fixes for pain. We want to rise without the difficulties. We want to get high without the difficulties. And it's like, you know what? We're just so, it's like we're so addicted to that quick fix. And the truth is, true, real rising can't happen without the difficulties. You know, because we can only do so much in our power. That's why all those fake fixes we go for don't fix us, because they're not meant to help us rise. They give us a fake high. So, what are the things we have to rise above? And, you know, when I was taking these steps up this thing, you know, I kept having to take a breath. And each one of those breaks could have been oh, screw this, I'm going back down. I can't do this. Forget this. I can't do this, and give up. You know, and what are those things? That can be haters. It can be doubters. It can be circumstances. It can be thoughts. It can be feelings. You know, these are the things that can make us get derailed. The enemy loves it. Or just like go right back down the mountain, or go right back down the dune. And it's like we just have to keep walking. We can't give up. So, you know, what I'm saying is, don't let the distractions and the things, the mountains that seem so insurmountable, block you. You take a step of faith and you act. So we face them, we climb the mountain one single step at a time. One day at a time. So, you know, they're going to keep coming. Just like these dunes were up and down and up and down. I mean, I was like, hon, I am just tired. We got to turn around because we've been out there for an hour and a half. It's like, dude, if I try and go any longer, I know I'm going to get really tired. But because I knew my body, and I went and I challenged and I pushed far, but it was like, okay, now it's time to return. But the point is that we have to keep going until, you know, we reach our destination. And you know, we're not going to reach that destination here on earth. So we keep going. That's when we rely on God's strength. And we need to believe he hasn't called us to a weak faith, but one that's in action, to rise up above the circumstances. You know, to give God, you know, the praise in our challenges. Because I turn 40 on next Monday, and all I can think about is where I was at 30 to where I am at 40. And he has just literally, I have risen above so many circumstances only with him, only by his power. 10 years. It's amazing when you decide to walk up the hills, walk through the challenges, how much strength God gives you in his power that I know I never could have gotten with any of those things I was addicted to. So I think that's about the message that I wanted to give you. You know, make that choice to rise. Don't avoid things you have to deal with, because it's not going to go anywhere. So, all right, you guys have a good week, and next week I'm talking about blooming, which I'm excited about. So I hope you have a good one, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.